Picture this. For 200 years, people have been going crazy digging up dirt on this tiny island. But the treasure, it was just in stories. Every time their hopes got crushed, the mystery got even deeper. But this time, things are different. The History Channel just announced something nobody saw coming. They found the Oak Island treasure. But wait, it's not just about gold and silver coins. What they discovered could totally change our history books. Between old maps, weird tunnels, and traps that are hundreds of years old, the team found something that blew everyone's minds. The cameras were filming everything. But trust me, they didn't show some stuff on TV. Rick and Marty, Lagina had that excited look in their eyes, but also looked kind of scared. After all, what did they find along with the treasure that made everyone go quiet? Instead of celebrating, some team members actually left the site, and the ones who stayed had confused looks on their faces instead of happy ones. People are saying the real adventure is just getting started. This wasn't just looking for treasure, it was uncovering a secret that's been hidden for hundreds of years. Is this really treasure or something completely different? The video clips you're about to see might change your mind forever. And believe me, the next surprise is so huge that you won't even want to blink. So if you don't want to miss what happens next in this mystery, hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications. The real truth is still coming. Let's go back to the 1700s. There was no internet, TV, or radio back then. News traveled by people talking, newspapers, or by ships. That's when strange stories started spreading about Oak Island. This small island near Nova Scotia, Canada. People said there was treasure buried somewhere on this island, hidden by a famous pirate or some mysterious group. Some folks thought it was Captain Kidd's treasure, while others believed it could be sacred treasure from the Knights Templar. The real twist in this story happened in 1795, when a kid named Daniel McGinnis saw a weird round hole on the island. The hole looked like someone had dug it, and then covered it back up. He called his two friends over, and they started digging. At first, they found a layer of wood just below the ground. They thought this was the door to the treasure room. But as they kept going down, they found a new layer of wood every 10 feet. This spot later became famous as the Money Pit. But the real game started right here. As they dug deeper, strange traps began showing up. At one point, water suddenly started filling up the pit, like there was some secret underground canal connected to the ocean. The team tried pumping out the water, but the pit would just fill up again really quickly. In the 1800s, lots of explorers and companies showed up. Everyone thought they'd be the ones to find the treasure. But every single time, either there was flooding, or a trap went off, or the digging got so expensive they had to quit halfway through. Even some workers died in accidents, which started the rumor about the Oak Island curse, that 7 people have to die before the treasure comes out. Year after year, try after try, explorers only found clues. Weird writing carved in stone, old chains, mysterious pieces of wood. But the actual treasure, it always stayed a mystery. And this history, this never-ending search, makes Oak Island the world's biggest unsolved treasure mystery, even today. What started as a small hole has become the longest and most dangerous treasure hunt story for centuries. The Oak Island story might have started in the 1700s, but 2 brothers deserve the biggest credit for bringing it back to life. Rick and Marty. Both of them are from Michigan, USA. Rick had been obsessed with Oak Island stories since he was a kid. In 1965, he read an article about the mysterious Oak Island treasure in Reader's Digest magazine. He was only 11 years old back then, but that article completely fired up his imagination. I have to find this treasure, he thought. Rick's passion kept burning inside him for years. Marty had a different way of thinking about it. Marty was all about business. He owned big companies in the energy business and had made tons of money. But seeing how passionate his brother was, he figured, okay, if this treasure really exists, why not go find it? And even if it doesn't exist, it'll still be the biggest adventure of our lives. In 2006, both brothers bought a huge chunk of Oak Island together. Now it wasn't just a dream anymore, it was their full-time mission. They put together a professional team, brought in the newest technology, and set out to find the craziest treasure in the world. But the real explosion happened when the History Channel decided to put their story on TV. The show The Curse of Oak Island started in 2014. People went absolutely crazy for it from the very first episode. The reason was that it wasn't just a treasure hunt, it was an amazing mix of history, mystery, cool technology, and brotherly love. Rick always seemed more emotional and dedicated on the show. For him, it wasn't just about getting gold and silver, but about making his childhood dream come true. Marty, on the other hand, was more practical. He focused more on budgets, machinery, and making smart decisions. These different personalities made them even more interesting to watch on screen. In every season, they found new clues, revealed old secrets, and sometimes there were such crazy twists that viewers would go nuts waiting for the next episode. The show didn't just feature the treasure hunt, but also the myths, folklore, and spooky stories about Oak Island's curse. The show quickly became a worldwide hit, with millions of people glued to their TVs each week, waiting to see what the Lagina brothers would do next. For Rick and Marty, Oak Island wasn't just a project anymore. It had become part of their lives. And that's when the search began that brought back a 200-year-old mystery and maybe got closer to solving it than anyone ever had before. People had been digging on Oak Island for years, but most of the work was done using old-school methods, shovels, drills, pumps, and lots of manual labor. But times had changed. The Lagina brothers figured that if the treasure really existed, they'd need to bring 21st century technology to find it. The first thing they did in the new season was use something called ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. This machine creates a 3D picture of what's buried underground. It's like taking an X-ray without having to dig anything up. The team used GPR all over the island, and the results totally surprised everyone. They found weird shapes underground, patterns that looked like straight lines, and some signals deep down that showed there was metal buried there. Then they did a metal detector survey. This wasn't some regular metal detector that finds coins. At the beach, this was an industrial-strength machine that could detect metal buried really deep. During the survey, at some spots, the machine beeped so loud that everyone on the team got super excited. They marked those spots as red zones on their map. And then came the high-tech drilling. Back in the old days, digging meant making huge trenches. But now, these guys used thin, super powerful drills to go straight to the targeted areas. This saved time, cost less money, and got them directly to the places with the best chances. The samples that came up from the drilling had old wood, metal pieces, and some strange stone layers that really surprised the team. By putting all this information together, the team came up with their first theory. The treasure is probably in a sealed room or vault that's buried deep and surrounded by layers of stone and wood on all sides. The pattern of red zones looked like a map where every point was telling an important story. Rick's theory was that this vault was probably built by the Knights Templar or some other secret society to keep their treasure and artifacts safe. Marty, being more practical as always, saw this data as just a way to get to the real location. The cameras were rolling, the air felt tense, and every team member felt like this time maybe, they'd gotten closer to the place that people had been trying to reach for 200 years. People had been digging on Oak Island for years, but most of the work was done using old-school methods, shovels, drills, pumps, and lots of manual labor. But times had changed. The Lagina brothers figured that if the treasure really existed, they'd need to bring 21st century technology to find it. The first thing they did in the new season was use something called ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. This machine creates a 3D picture of what's buried underground. It's like taking an X-ray without having to dig anything up. The team used GPR all over the island, and the results totally surprised everyone. They found weird shapes underground, patterns that looked like straight lines, and some signals deep down that showed there was metal buried there. Then they did a metal detector survey. This wasn't some regular metal detector that finds coins. At the beach, this was an industrial-strength machine that could detect metal buried really deep. During the survey, at some spots, the machine beeped so loud that everyone on the team got super excited. They marked those spots as red zones on their map. And then came the high-tech drilling. Back in the old days, digging meant making huge trenches. But now, these guys used thin, super powerful drills to go straight to the targeted areas. This saved time, cost less money, and got them directly to the places with the best chances. The samples that came up from the drilling had old wood, metal pieces, and some strange stone layers that really surprised the team. By putting all this information together, the team came up with their first theory. The treasure is probably in a sealed room or vault that's buried deep and surrounded by layers of stone and wood on all sides. The pattern of red zones looked like a map where every point was telling an important story. Rick's theory was that this vault was probably built by the Knights Templar or some other secret society to keep their treasure and artifacts safe. Marty, being more practical as always, saw this data as just a way to get to the real location. The cameras were rolling. The air felt tense, and every team member felt like this time, maybe. They'd gotten closer to the place that people had been trying to reach for 200 years. The sample that came up after drilling made everyone's heart beat faster. Buried in the dirt and rocks was a shiny piece that glowed golden when light hit it. At first, it looked like just an ordinary piece of metal, but as soon as they cleaned it off, everyone's faces changed completely. Surprise, excitement, and a little bit of nervousness. The piece was so heavy that it weighed way more than it looked like it should. Rick picked it up and immediately knew. This wasn't ordinary metal. There was detailed carving all over the surface. The patterns were so complex that you could clearly see this was made by a really skilled craftsperson. Some designs looked like old European style, while some symbols looked like they came straight out of history books. Marty immediately said, "We need to send this to a lab for testing." But Rick was focused on those designs. He pulled out an old folder from his bag that had copies of old maps and documents about Oak Island. He compared the symbols on one map to the carvings on the metal piece, and the match left everyone in the room completely stunned. The same symbol was on a map from the 1600s that talked about the vault, a sealed room that supposedly held not just gold, but something important to the whole world. The team immediately called historians. When they saw the metal piece, their first reaction was, "This discovery is way more than just gold." They said the metal was very rare, and the technology used to make it was pretty advanced for that time period. Some even said it could be part of a religious or royal treasure that was brought here and hidden centuries ago. For Rick, this moment wasn't just his old dream coming true. It was proof that he was on the right track. Marty, who always thought practically, even agreed this time that this wasn't just about precious metal, but about a hidden chapter of history. The cameras captured every single moment. The whispered conversations between team members, faces bent over documents, and the shiny piece that was maybe the first peek into Oak Island's biggest secret. But the biggest question still remained. If this is just the beginning, what will the real treasure look like? And can they actually get it out safely? Every episode of Oak Island makes you feel like you're right there with them. Every drill, every discovery, every clue happens right in front of our eyes. But the reality is that what you see on TV isn't the whole story. Actually, a lot of what happens gets cut out in the editing room, and that's what makes this discovery even more mysterious. In the latest season, when the team was digging in that red zone, there were some moments during filming that never made it on TV. Crew members say that at one point, they had to stop drilling because there were weird vibrations coming from underground. Like there was an empty chamber down there, with something moving around in it. The cameras were recording, but this footage never showed up in any episode. There was a strange fear among the team too. Some people were clearly saying that whatever they were about to touch probably shouldn't be touched. Rick and Marty even had an argument about this. Rick wanted to share everything with the public, while Marty thought it was important to understand it safely first. The reaction from the TV production team was also interesting. Usually they show any major discovery with lots of drama, but this time they kept things very low-key, like they didn't want the footage to cause too much excitement. Some crew members even said there was pressure from higher-ups on the show to not release certain scenes to the public. And then comes the biggest question of all. Was an artifact really found that had been hidden away? Insider reports say yes, a metal object with strange symbols on it, similar to those used by ancient religious or mystical groups. It was caught on camera, but just hours later, it was packed in a sealed container and taken away from the site. The footage never aired, and the History Channel never said anything about it publicly. This was the moment when theories and gossip started spreading like crazy among fans. Some say it's a relic from the Knights Templar. Some claim it's part of an ancient machine. And some people even believe it's evidence of a civilization that isn't even mentioned in history books. Whatever the truth is, one thing is clear. What we see on TV is only half the story of Oak Island. The real adventure and mystery is probably hidden behind the cameras. And that's where the answers the whole world is looking for really are. The Oak Island team always hoped that if they found something, it would be gold, silver, or maybe an old treasure chest. But this time, the digging took a turn that shocked everyone. While they were cleaning debris from the drill, they spotted a strange piece of metal. At first, it seemed like it would be similar to other metals they'd found. But when they brushed the dirt off it, they saw strange markings along its edges. These weren't just random scratches. These were very carefully made patterns, like someone had carved a special message or code. Rick picked up the piece and examined it closely, then looked at Marty. Both of them knew this thing wasn't ordinary. The style of the markings didn't match any modern language. There were some circular designs, a cross-like shape in the middle, and very fine lines around the edges, like they were part of a map. The team immediately called in archaeologists. They examined the piece, but their reaction was strange. First, TA showed deep interest. Then suddenly went quiet. They just said, "This is very important, but we won't make any public statement about it right now." Meanwhile, the media also caught wind of this discovery. But the reporters who came to the site only got basic information and were told not to ask more questions. Even some interviews that were filmed never made it on TV. It seemed like someone was controlling the whole story from above. Marty later told a crew member off camera, "This isn't just a story about finding treasure anymore. Now we're touching something that could change history." Rick also said, "This story is still incomplete. What we're seeing is just the beginning. The real answers are probably buried many feet below." This discovery changed the game for the team. Now it wasn't just about finding gold or silver or getting rich. It was about solving a mystery that has probably been kept hidden for centuries. And honestly, the more they dug, the deeper the mystery became. There are as many theories as there are mysteries about the Oak Island discovery. And these theories aren't just guesses from fans, but also ideas from historians, researchers, and experts involved in the digging. The most famous theory is about the Knights Templar treasure. People believe that in the 1300s, the Knights Templar, which was a powerful religious and military group, had precious gold, sacred artifacts, and maybe even the Holy Grail. When they were in danger in Europe, they hid their treasure in secret places. Some historians think they sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and reached Nova Scotia, and Oak Island was the perfect hiding spot for them. Another theory says that secrets from an ancient civilization are buried here. Some people think it's connected to Vikings, while others think it's the Phoenicians. These were seafaring people who traveled long distances, thousands of years ago, and left their mark all over the world. Oak Island might be one of their old trading posts where they hid valuable stuff. Another interesting idea is that religious artifacts are hidden on Oak Island. Ancient scrolls, sacred books, or evidence that could change what we know about history. If that's true, it makes sense why some of the footage and artifacts are being kept secret. Some experts even believe that Oak Island's mystery is connected to a major historical truth, one that people have tried really hard for centuries to keep hidden. This truth could be about an empire, a religious power, or maybe a forgotten civilization. Whatever the truth is, these theories get more intense with each new clue found on Oak Island. And now, as the team uncovers clues that have no clear explanation, the question becomes even more important. Are we just getting close to treasure, or are we about to discover history's biggest secret? The Oak Island team has clearly said, "Now, we're going deeper." The clues they've found have made them even more determined. Rick says that now they won't just dig around the edges, but will go directly to the spot where they have the most hope. Meaning that in the coming days, the machines will dig deeper and the danger will also increase. But this isn't just a technical challenge. Now, things might get complicated with government interference under Nova Scotia's laws. If something historically or religiously important is found during the digging, the government can shut down the site. Some inside reports also say that certain departments are already keeping an eye on things. And if they find something sensitive, the search will be stopped immediately. And then there's the thing that always hangs over the Oak Island search, the rumor about a curse. People say that until 7 people lose their lives here, the treasure won't come out. So far, 6 deaths have happened. The crew members themselves admit that bad luck happens more often here. Equipment breakdowns, sudden floods, and weird accidents that don't happen at any other dig site. Marty, who's always practical, even admits that strange coincidences are common here. But Rick's attitude is that fear isn't a reason to stop. He says, "If we quit now, the secret will stay hidden for another 200 years. The question now is, will the team be able to overcome government obstacles, increasing dangers, and stories about a curse? Or will Oak Island keep its secret buried once again?" So many years of hard work, countless digs, new technologies, and hundreds of clues. But what's happening now on Oak Island isn't just a treasure hunt. It's the beginning of changing history. The team is now standing at a turning point where taking just one step forward could reveal the truth that's been hidden for centuries. But what will come with this truth? Gold, silver, and wealth, or a secret that the world isn't ready to hear? This is the suspense that has kept this story alive until now. You can see it clearly in Rick's eyes. This isn't just a project, but the mission of his life. Marty, who always believes in logic and planning, is now convinced that something really big is buried here. And if it comes out, then maybe many history books will have to be rewritten. But the biggest thing is that this story isn't ending here. The clues they've found are just the beginning. The real explosion is still coming. And believe me, what will be revealed in the next season will blow your mind. Maybe it's the answer that hundreds of people have been looking for over the last 200 years. Or a new question that will push us even deeper into the mystery. So if you don't want to miss the next step, the next twist, and the next big revelation of this search, then subscribe to the channel right now and turn on notifications. Because when the next secret of Oak Island is revealed, you'll be so amazed you'll forget to even blink.